to chat with their general manager, Joe Douglas, afterwards. If you could just tell us what that was like.
Yeah, great staff. Love those guys, and Joe Douglas is a great guy, and it was good to see him out here, and they got a good thing going, and my Zoom interactions with them has just kind of been like any other team, trying to go through and they just try and pick your brain, see what you're about, the way you process things and all that kind of stuff. So it's been good.
Breaking news, the NFL now drafting middle schoolers to play quarterback in the NFL. You know you're getting old when incoming rookies look like they are younger than your nephew who's 14. Joining us now, a guy who played in the NFL from 2005 through 2015. He's our good friend Chris Canty. Chris, welcome. How are you, pal?
I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate you having me on the show, Mike. It's been a while since we had a chance to chat.
Yeah, I remember the old days when we would do it from time to time in the afternoon. I think you'd hop the train up from Baltimore. You'd come up on your off day, right? When you were still playing for the Ravens. Weren't you doing that?
No, so I would do that during the bye week, but in the off season, I lived in the tri-state area, so I would just drive from my house in Jersey up to Stanford. But I was doing PFT in the afternoon with you guys 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, I thought there was a time you came up.
Business.
I thought you, and despite being involved with me, you've been quite successful. I just thought there was one time you came up on your off day, but I'm clearly incorrect. I'll defer to your knowledge of your life and instead of my own vague recollection. But those were some fun times and some fun days. Well, now you're getting it done, focusing on the New York teams. And I'm going to start with Zach Wilson. Miles and I were talking about this earlier. The trade today that has the 49ers move up to number 3 and give up 2 other first-round picks and a third-round pick, they're not doing that for anything other than a quarterback. And I think they know, or at least they expect, that the Jets are going to take Zach Wilson at number 2, and they're content with that, and they have another guy that they want. What was your read on the 49ers moving up and what that means as it relates to the Jets, especially in light of the report that the 49ers never talked to the Jets about moving all the way to number 2?
Well, that was the big surprise for me, Mike, the fact that the 49ers didn't have any communications between the Jets. It kind of felt like the Jets have tipped their hand to the rest of the league that they're going to take a quarterback. And it makes all the sense in the world because you have a lot of questions about Sam Darnold through 3 seasons. If for no other reason, you get an opportunity to reset the money at the position, reset the clock. And if you look at the landscape of the AFC East, it seems like it's going to be a couple of years before the Jets are going to have the opportunity to compete. So it makes sense to go a different direction with quarterback. And it just feels like everybody around the National Football League already knows it.
Chris, why have things gone so wrong with Sam Darnold? Is he as bad as we all seem to perceive that he is, or was it an Adam Gase thing? Or why is it that they were just so ready to move on?
Well, Miles, here's the thing. I don't think anybody knows whether or not Sam Darnold's any good, and that's the problem, because we're through 3 seasons and we still can't make a definitive determination on what the kid is. He's got more turnovers than he does passing touchdowns, so that's a problem. I remember my former coach, Bill Parcells, used to always say, I'll give a player 3 years to show me what he can do, and then I'm going to make a decision on him. Well, unfortunately, we've gotten to 3 years with Sam, and we still have no clue as to what he is. Now, in all fairness to him, the organization hasn't done him any favors. They fired his head coach after his rookie year. They fired the general manager that drafted him going into his second year. And then to make things worse, Chris Johnson, the brother of Woody Johnson, decided to saddle Sam Darnold with Adam Gase, the quote-unquote quarterback whisperer, after he was an unmitigated disaster down in Miami. So a lot of things have kind of gone against Sam Darnold, but that still doesn't answer the question as to whether or not the kid can play quarterback in the NFL.
But you're right about the 3 years. I think in this day and age, 3 years, if you don't declare yourself to be a franchise quarterback within 3 years, you're not going to eventually. The great ones, they're going to stand out some way, somehow, despite who the coach is, despite who the teammates are. You're going to see something out of that guy in his first 3 years to let you know he's a guy that you keep for as long as you can. And what have we seen from Darnold to make us say, wow, he's the guy? You know, there hasn't been a Patrick Mahomes type of a moment that he gave us right away where we say, wow, this guy's for real. And I think that's the problem. Back in the 70s, you had 5 years to figure it out. Now you got 3 years. And, Chris, I feel bad for Sam Darnold the way it's gone, and he'll get an opportunity somewhere, not in San Francisco apparently, but he'll get an opportunity. But for a team that's been trying to find a franchise quarterback really since Joe Namath, you know, you got to do it. You got to take your shot, because if it works, You got your answer. And if it doesn't, you'll be back again in 2 or 3 years to try again, just like the Jets are.
No, you're right. And if you're Joe Douglas, do you want to go down with somebody else's pick at quarterback, or do you want to go down with your own guy? I mean, you can make the same argument about the decision to move on from Adam Gase and go with Rob Saleh. It's like he makes his first head coaching hire and then being able to pair that head coach with his future franchise quarterback. So from his career mortality standpoint, like I just think that Joe Douglas has made the decision. I'm going to make the decisions, and if it fails, it's on me as opposed to failing with somebody else's people.
So, Chris, you just mentioned Rob Saleh. Do you think that him bringing in Mike LaFleur, who is Matt LaFleur's brother, who's had that success in Green Bay and then also knows that Shanahan system so well, does that make people feel a little bit more comfortable about drafting a quarterback, at 2 overall and then having to develop him?
Yeah, I think it makes Joe Douglas and this new regime feel a little more comfortable because that Shanahan system is user-friendly when it comes to quarterback play, right? You have the zone running scheme, and then you pair it with a lot of boots and sprint actions. And so being able to get a young quarterback outside of the pocket, away from pressure, away from being behind a shaky offensive line, I think it makes a whole lot of sense. And it allows that young quarterback to truly grow into that role. So I think it'll cater to a lot of the strengths of the young quarterback that they decide to take it to, whether it ends up being Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, or Justin Fields. All of them are athletic quarterbacks. All of them do a great job of being able to throw on the run. So I just feel like that's a good direction for this Jets franchise to go in. Now it's just a matter of picking the right quarterback and supporting him properly.
There's justifiable skepticism about the Jets generally because of the way things have gone lately. Though, what's the mood locally right now, given the moves they've made, given where they are, given that it's kind of settling in on Zach Wilson as the guy? How are people feeling in New York about what could happen for the Jets?
Surprisingly, Mike, people that are around town are split between the Jets deciding to take a young quarterback at 2 or staying with Sam Darnold. They feel like they can get a haul for one of those teams that's quarterback starved that wants to move into that number 2 slot. Because of all of the reasons that we've already outlined, they feel like Sam Darnold just hasn't gotten a fair shake, and they want to put a good supporting cast around the kid to see whether or not he's got the goods. The only problem with that is this. If Sam Darnold proves himself not to be your guy, you're going into the 2022 offseason with ammunition, but might not necessarily have the quarterbacks in that draft class to be able to pivot from Sam Darnold. So it just seems like it makes the most sense right now, if you're going to try to find your next franchise quarterback for the next decade plus, that you would do it this offseason, you would do it in this draft.
Do you feel like there is a spot that the Jets don't have to address going into this draft after free agency? What do you think that they've kind of taken care of at this point?
Well, I like what they did at the receiver position. I think they're solid there. They have a lot to build on. I mean, they added Corey Davis to Denzel Mims and Jamison Crowder, and they've also got some other pieces that they want to get a look at. But I like the Keelan Cole pickup. I think he's going to be great in the slot for him. So I think the receiver position is one that they're solid. But outside of that, they need everything else. I mean, I like their left tackle, Mekhi Becton. I like Quentin Williams, their defensive tackle. But, I mean, they really need help at pretty much every other position. So I think that this Jets team is a work in progress, and this rebuild is going to take a couple of years. We're not talking about a turnaround after one season. I think it's going to be 2 or 3 years down the road before the Jets are truly competitive in the AFC East.
You won a Super Bowl 10 years ago as a member of the New York Giants. The team has been to the playoffs all of once since then.
Ouch.
What do they need to do, and how do you feel about what they've done this offseason? They've been aggressive. They've spent a lot, over $100 million in combined contract value for 2 guys who played a combined 8 games last year. I don't know how I feel about that. How do you feel about what the Giants are doing?
Well, I think the Giants have positioned themselves well for the draft late April, right? They've addressed the glaring needs on this roster. They got a number 2 corner. They made sure they locked up Leonard Williams. They probably should have did that deal as soon as they traded for Leonard Williams. They probably could have done it for about $6 million a year cheaper had they went that route. But I like the moves that they made, bringing in Kenny Golladay, a true number 1 receiver, an ex-receiver, somebody that can be that big body target for Daniel Jones with those 50-50 balls, as well as being a friend to him in the red zone. I like the Kyle Rudolph pickup. It seems like they're going to go the route of trying to have 2 tight end sets. But the thing that I really love the most about the moves that Dave Gettleman has made is that it seems like he's trying to eliminate all the excuses for Daniel Jones as to why he can't be a successful quarterback in the NFL. Going into year 3, this is a huge year for him. Daniel Jones has got to prove that he's the guy. Otherwise, the Giants are probably going to pivot off of him, and they're probably going to move on from Dave Gettleman.
Do you think that he is the guy?
Well, he's got to stop turning the football over, Miles. I mean, 39 turnovers in 2 seasons ain't going to get it done. It's hard to be a consistently competitive team when your quarterback is turning the ball over 20 times a year. So I think that's the part that he's got to get cleaned up. Now, the thing I will say is this offense started to look different in the second half of 2020 as Jason Garrett incorporated Daniel Jones into some of the zone read schemes with their running game. And I think that took a lot of pressure off of DJ in the passing game. So we'll see if they're able to continue with that once he's fully healthy, once he's past that hamstring. But this is a big show and prove year for Daniel. I mean, I root for him as much as anybody because he went to my high school, so I want to see the kid have success. But, I mean, this thing could go one of 2 ways. But the Giants are eliminating all the excuses for him, so I think that they're trying to set the table for him to have a huge season, getting Saquon Barkley back. I mean, this is one of those things where Daniel Jones has got to put up or he's going to be moved on.
Hey, it's just like Sam Darnold. Year 3. What do we see year 3 for Josh Allen? We saw a superstar. It's going to break one way or the other for Daniel Jones this year. He's got to work on that clock in his head, holds the ball too long, ball gets knocked out. But it's not something that isn't fixable. It's up to him to fix it. And speaking of clocks, you were telling us before the segment, you get up at 2:30 in the morning for your 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. show on ESPN New York. Good Lord, Chris Canty.
I know, right? I guess being on time, coughing time during my playing days comes in handy for something. But, yeah, it is an early morning. This is going on my 3rd month on that schedule. And when I first started out, the people that were in the business said, don't worry, give it some time, you'll get used to it. Well, 3 months obviously ain't enough time to get used to it. It still hurts every single morning I get up.
Well, I had a show that started at 6 for 5 years or 4 years, and that was hard. 7 is still hard. I can't imagine starting at 5. Can't imagine getting up at 2:30. But we'll let you get some rest. You're probably ready for bed after a full week of getting up at 2:30. Appreciate your time very much. Let's do it again real soon, Chris. Great talking to you, pal.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.